I'm looking at the 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 fight that makes the most sense, and that's not Boots. Canelo is going to bring way more to my legacy, way more to my bank account. Because at the end of the day, when boxing is done with, what will we have?
Terence Crawford admits that making 147 pounds was getting kind of tough in his last fight with Errol Spence, so he felt the need to move up in weight, and that's what I want to talk about in this video. Terence Crawford, he had a send-off. He usually does this, or at least maybe for his big fights, where he has the people of Nebraska, the people of Omaha come out, check him out, that kind of thing. So he was in his gym, the B&B boxing gym, and there was a little bit of a media scrum with the media that arrived. And Terence Crawford said basically that 147 was becoming harder to make. So he decided he needed to give his body a break. That's why he's moving up to 154. But he does admit that he doesn't know exactly how his body will take at the new division in terms of in competition. You gotta understand this about boxing and hear me loud and clearly. Pounds matter. And I hate when people blame Floyd Mayweather for things. I really do, because people blame Floyd for stupid stuff. Like they'll say, oh, Floyd being undefeated and having a undefeated record set a trend. Now everybody wants to protect their O and all this goofy stuff. Bro, I mean, that's just stupid. Who wants to lose if they don't have to lose? Like, it's just, if you're good enough to beat the person, you're good enough to beat whoever you face. So nobody wants to take unnecessary blemishes and lose. Nobody chooses to lose. Maybe you're not good enough to beat a given foe, but nobody wants to lose. So blaming Floyd for stuff like that, oh, people are protecting their O's because Floyd made it fashionable, I think that's goofy. I think that's stupid. But when it comes to this might kind of link back to Floyd Mayweather, because Floyd said it. I remember in the interview, Floyd said something like, weight don't win fights, skills win fights. And I understand what he meant. I respect Floyd's fight game. And it's like a yay and nay type of thing. When Floyd said that, it made sense. It made perfect sense. He's saying that skills pay the bills, weight don't really matter. And it's kind of one of those things to me that's true and false. It can be true given whoever the fighter is, but it can also be false. Meaning you get certain styles in there in that boxing ring, and then they have to fight a heavier, strong puncher, durable guy, and this is their particular style and how they move. That style would not be equipped to deal with a much bigger person. Like, for example, Lomachenko, and I've been in the game, so I know this. Lomachenko, at one point in his career, he's saying he eventually wants to fight Terence Crawford. He shut the up about that, and he ain't said that since, right? Because he got to lightweight, and that looks like where he's topped out at. I think Lomachenko, he already has like a gang of losses on his record, and some that he won but should have lost, kind of thing. If Lomachenko, in my honest opinion, were to move to 140, he would definitely lose, and or his fights would be much tougher. But then when you think about Lomachenko at 47, it would be even worse, because you would have, like, now I don't want to say average, but you would have even middle of the road guys who could probably beat Lomachenko or give him a tough fight, just based on, like, a very good sturdy guy like Mario Barrios could probably beat a Lomachenko and or give him all he can handle, because Loma is not really a knockout artist at 35, and he came from featherweight and, the 130s basically. Barrios is hurting guys like Ugas and going 12 rounds with Fabian Madonna, who can hit and was counterpunching. So for me, I feel like even fights like that would be tough. But can you imagine? It sounds crazy to think Lomachenko versus Jaron Boots Ennis, right? People will be like, oh, you're crazy, you just want Loma to lose, kind of thing, because you know exactly what would happen if Jaron Ennis fought a guy the size of Lomachenko. So Floyd, I understand what he meant, but people have taken that out of context as if in no circumstance or situation does weight matter, but weight definitely matters in the sport of boxing. And I could think of certain fights where weight actually mattered. Like even Broner Maidana, I would say Maidana having the experience at the 47 and it only being Broner's second fight, I think weight mattered in that fight. Not to say if they were both at 40 or something, it would have been different. However, it would have given Broner probably a better chance than moving up 2 divisions, fighting a Paulie Malignaggi, and then fighting Maidana. So rant over. I just had to set that because we're talking about weight. Now, another thing is Terence Crawford. He's saying he doesn't know how his body is gonna feel. I understand that because sparring is sparring, training in the gym, sparring with heavier guys with headgear and bigger gloves and winning gloves and stuff like that. That's cool, but it's not the same as no headgear under the bright lights, fighting Olympians and fighting undefeated guys and champions when the cameras are rolling. Everybody who's a boxing fan should know these things. So I am anxious for this fight, Crawford Madrimov. I really don't know if Crawford would or can stop Madrimov. He's a big dude. He looks low key like almost like a light heavy or a super middleweight. So Crawford, he knows himself. He knows his body. He says his body had to give, his body had to get a break basically. Now, I know that I'm the best in the business and it's not even close. The funny thing is with Crawford saying this, he's saying that he basically, it's a struggle or it's hard to make 147. And I find that to be funny because before the fight with Errol Spence, I did pick Errol Spence to beat Crawford. I thought he could beat him, but I was wrong, obviously. Terence Crawford was looking weight drained at the final press conference and like the fight week stuff. And I'm like, yo, what is up? Like, I never seen Crawford look this tapped and stretched. And I've seen him like more so when he was at like lightweight, where his face looked a little bit gaunt, like it was probably hard to make the weight. But I noticed that immediately in the Errol Spence versus Terence Crawford buildup. So it's kind of funny to me because at the end of the day, I feel like there's much to do about Boxing Ego getting a prediction wrong. Y'all love when I'm wrong because it rarely comes where I put out some information that was bad. And because Errol Spence got beaten so badly and one-sided by Terence Crawford, that became the focus. So a lot of the other things, you know, and maybe rightfully so, I don't know. But a lot of the other things that I was saying that came true, it fell by the wayside because the fans, they were just happy that Boxing Ego was wrong. It wasn't even about the fight no more. But regarding Terence Crawford, he's telling you. So obviously I was still spitting despite my prediction being wrong because he's now saying that it was hard for him to make the weight and he's moving up, which I, again, think that Terence Crawford, his face looked very ghastly in the fight with Errol Spence on fight week. I had never seen him like that. He bulked up too much and clearly it didn't affect him, but it clearly was a thing when I was making all those videos talking about how Crawford didn't look that great. Now, what I did miscalculate is Errol Spence had been in the division so long that I thought he hired a nutritionist and he did look weight drained too, but I thought because he went about it, because there was a point in time, you have to remember in Errol Spence's career, there was a point in time where Errol Spence was not disciplined, where he admits that he was like 180, 190, then he got in an accident and all this type of stuff. So he wasn't really managing his weight. So I thought with the nutritionist and more of a dedicated approach that he would arrive at the weight safely. But to be honest, in the Crawford fight, it did look like Errol stayed at the division too long because he had such an off night. And I know people say, oh, you're taking away credit from Crawford. I don't have to do that, but I seen what I seen, and that was a version of Errol Spence we had never seen. And some of it goes to Terence Crawford, good game plan, good strategy, but I don't think that's all of it. Errol Spence, again, I'm gonna keep saying the same thing because that's what I believe in. to me, it looked like Errol Spence wouldn't have beaten some of the guys he's already beaten, like prime Kell Brook or fighting Danny Garcia, Ugas. Some of these fights he might have lost looking like he looked. He looked zapped. I don't know what happened. I don't know if he was sick. I don't know. You'd have to ask Errol Spence, but from my recollection of the fight, it looked like things beyond just Crawford being a good fighter and making it one-sided. It looked like Errol Spence had some stuff going on. But Errol Spence being a G, you know, he's not really gonna make a bunch of excuses, so he didn't really elaborate. He hasn't really done many interviews talking about whatever it was. I'm sure at some point maybe that stuff will come out, but I saw what I saw. As far as Crawford, we will see how he looks at a new division. I keep telling you guys the same thing. A new division is you're hitting the reset button. Whatever you've done in your past, that's cool for your legacy and cool for the history books, but Madrimov is not going to be afraid necessarily because you haven't made your name in the new division, and he has several fights in this division, and I think he used to fight even at middleweight in the amateurs. So Crawford, he's definitely taken a daring fight. I think he was kind of forced to go this direction based on he wanted Fundora Zoo winner, but PBC had other plans, so he couldn't really get that. Fundora's injured, so he kind of had to look in Madrimov's direction unless he wanted to go for non-title fight. But, you know, Crawford entering 154 like he entered welterweight, which is to fight a champion straight off the bat like he did with Jeff Horn. Let me know what you guys think of Crawford at the new weight. Ego was correct with Crawford struggling to make that weight. I think it was very apparent on fight week of the Errol Spence fight, but nonetheless, he pulled it together, rehydrated well, and got past Errol Spence. Now we'll see how he looks in a brand new weight class, and I'm anxious for that fight in a few weeks. Ego Weight Watchers, best in the business, and that's not even close.